Well, since nobody's watching, I'm actually going to do another 5-minute countdown.
Generally, but you're either like, you get these legalistic, very rigid ones who are like, follow the book, follow the rules, very, very rigid. And you get the ones who are like, Jesus, grace, it covers all. All I have to do is like go to these services, raise my hands, like just be in the
Wearing black.
Right, I would black a lot. Yeah. Well, like black is it's a very
But
energy.
there was something so wonderful about when you were there, Marilyn. Like you did these things. Like there was no mistake for an audience to say the need to be proud. But you were like, there's something something about it. You had like empathy behind you. But you were still like smile and laugh and hang out. Like it was funny, and I like looking back on this, it's very fun. You do these things from this whole like program.
Yeah.
It's like you're on these episodes and you're doing this and like and everything.
Hello, Red Trek. Have you listened to the Station 11 soundtrack? It's pretty good. What is Station 11? I'm guessing it's a movie. I am going to play this video while I eat, and you guys can watch me eat.
Like not caring. I won't put this on you, but I wonder if it's possible you may have not drunk before some of them, and just because you're like you're just hanging out. Maybe that's just you. I don't want to put that on. It's like it was wonderful because it's like you couldn't really get upset with you, at least from my standpoint. But it was also like, no, I'm not doing your thing.
That is my attitude in life. So I appreciate that you noticed that, because I'd say that's accurate. Like when it comes to, because we'll go to the Bible. The Bible says, we don't fight with like flesh and blood. We fight with strength and principalities.
Yeah.
And you find verses like that across almost all religions, all spiritual paths. Like you're not fighting against your fellow man. You're fighting against a concept or a thought form that is like possessing that person. And thought forms, we're all possessed by something, because we're all just energy fields. And so my attitude was always like, I hate what you stand for right now, but like, I like you. I don't not like anyone. Like, it's very hard for me to not like a person. And so I think that translates into conversations also. And I always want to learn more things. So if you come to me with an attitude of like, where our opinions are different.
It's really easy for me not to like people. There's lots and lots of people I don't like. I love them, but only because God says I have to. It's kind of like, your dad says you have to love your like brother or sister, and you don't really, and you would never ever ever hang around with them if you had the choice. Actually, I kind of would sometimes hang around with my sister. She's okay, but she's certainly not a friend I would make. But she's my sister.
But let's talk about this and both find the truth together. And I'm happy as a clam, and I'll have that conversation.
Yeah.
But I get feisty with the people who try to control me. Like some of the people there did get a little like feisty and controlling with me, and I snapped back. I don't know if you heard those stories, but those were few and far between. For the most part, I'm an easygoing person to be around.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a bunch of things there, but like the kinds of things you're talking about of being possessed by ideas, by thought forms, by ideologies, or families of ideas. There's all kinds of different layers at which you can pick that out, right? And I think that's where you kind of.
So I had no idea if Ken was hardcore Christian or whatever, and I'm talking to him for the second time, but first time like I was talking to him just one-on-one, and I kind of hinted, oh, you must be an atheist or a non-theist, and he's like, well, I think I'm a Christian. I think of myself as a Christian, and I said, do you go to church? And he said, no, not right now. And I said, then you're not a Christian. And that's the first time I'd ever takfired a Christian, really. But it was like, come on, like we're having all these Vervaeke discussions. Like, if you're not going to church, like, what kind of a Christian are you? Funny thing is, I actually go to church more than most Christians. So weird me. Anybody have comments? I'm sorry. Is my eating loud? It's a mini series in which COVID kills many people. Okay. But it finished filming before COVID struck. You guys can't hear me eating, can you? I can mute myself, I guess. That's annoying. I really hate. I will finish talking before I mute myself. I really hate when I can hear other people eating. It's like, ugh.
of conscious of it, like in a self-aware way, as you just described when you were at Biola?
Yeah, from a very early age, I've been reading a lot of. I read a lot of law of attraction books
Okay.
starting when I was like maybe like 12 years old. My
Okay.
dad was a traveling salesman, and so he went to a lot of those like self-help seminars. Bought a lot of the books, the courses on like how to communicate, raise your vibration to be a stronger presenter. So I was very conscious of that element from a young age, and I've always carried that with me. And I'm a big believer in like sound. I love sound and working with sound in cinema. And I was always very conscious about what I said and the words I use and how I would say things. Like it's very hard to find me on a day when I will negatively say something about my day or like myself or someone I care about, because I just believe even if you say it and don't really mean it, like you just put sound vibrations into the ether and that's doing something, whether it does just move the scale, whatever, like it does something,
Yeah. Okay, so this is something that I've like talked about a lot in different ways, but I like the way you're coming at it. Is this notion of uh, everything you say and every action that you take, top to bottom, matters.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me the case. Like you're what I'm hearing from you there is kind of an argument from a perspective. It's kind of that like that border of kind of spirituality and quantum physics almost
Yeah.
is where you're talking about it there, which is what I love.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I'm coming at it from the side like there's so two other lenses I'll layer on what you just said. One is cognitive science, right,
Mm-hmm.
and the actual way in which our cognition works. I find that when I'm careful about the words I use and I only use the right words, right? I don't just use them sloppily
Mm-hmm.
and I don't use them frivolously. It maintains the words can maintain more stable relationships to each other. And my own cognitive mapping of the world becomes more clear.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
there's, I can stand on this word and it doesn't move because I never misuse it. And I think that then you can scale from there to the Christian frame, which the Christian frame has all these things about like, um, the life and death is in the power of the tongue,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a huge emphasis on the words you speak, which is I don't know. Words are kind of like midway in between action and thought.
Yeah.
They're like the I don't know the layer between in terms of
Yeah.
their actual embodiment into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think oftentimes, I mean, the thing that gets emphasized always everywhere in the world is the focus on the actions.
Mm-hmm.
Control your actions, do good actions, right? But like Jesus' Sermon on the Mount is being like, hey, you guys are being kind of dumb because you're playing at this level, but you need to play. If you play at the level of the thoughts, then you don't even need to worry about the actions. Like they're downstream.
Right.
But I don't think, I guess what I'm saying here is like this is the level between those of the words, and like you're trying to get every level in order. Okay, so that's a bunch of stuff.
Completely, it's the bridge. You could have like a beautiful mainland and a beautiful island, but if you got a rickety bridge, like it's going to be much harder to get to that place.
Yep.
And I found too that like that's why I try to write for at least 30 minutes to an hour every single day, because if you do that, you're thinking about the specific words you want to use in whatever thought you're communicating on paper, and that gets registered subconsciously. And now you know that word, you're comfortable with it, you know exactly where it stands, and then you're more prepared to use it in your everyday speech. And so 100%, dude, words are very, very important. And I found that exact same thing. Like when you are conscious of the words you use, your actions follow, and you become more conscious about your actions also.
Yes. And they become easier.
Yeah.
So like this is, I guess to layer on my story, like one of the things where my story really took off was a guy by the name of Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Before times. Yeah, I like
nice.
it. Good.
Nice. Perfect. I mean, a lot of the things we're talking vector off of points there, right? But I'll bring up one specifically, which is tell the truth or at least don't lie.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, for me growing up and even through college, like the only reason you told the truth really was like, well, other people won't like you if you do it too much.
Mm-hmm.
But the only higher justification I ever heard was like, oh, God doesn't want you to do that. But like I never understood why. I never understood how much it matters to your actual internal mapping of reality to lies. And that was one of the things where it was like this switch of like, oh, this isn't just a game, right? Like I'm not here just to be like, oh, screw the system, I'm just gonna do my thing. It was like, no, man, like this is real, and you're responsible for your own life, and you actually can make it better or worse. Like the ways you live your life, it's not like you're just a victim of a system. Like the things you do have a huge impact on how your life actually goes.
Yes.
But it seems like you learned that way earlier.
I did. And that's why I had a big issue with a lot of the people at Biola and started to have a big issue with a lot of modern day Western Christianity, because you have like it's weird. You have like this group, in my opinion, at least, there's Christians fall on like either side of the fence generally, but you're either like, you get these legalistic, very rigid ones who are like, follow the book, follow the rules, very, very rigid. Then you get the ones who are like, Jesus, grace, it covers all. All I have to do is like go to these services, raise my hands, like just be in the spirit, whatever, and Jesus will take care of the rest of my life. I don't need to do anything. He's in control.
Okay, I have to say, like, the dichotomy is a weird dichotomy, because I think everybody ultimately is legalistic in their own way. This idea of not being legalistic, like, I think it's complete BS. And the people who and you'll find like the people who claim not to be legalistic, like you'll notice they will be very legalistic and have very ritualistic and in their own ways. So yeah, frankly, I think the whole dichotomy is just ridiculous and silly.
You know, and that was my biggest issue, because I'm like, okay, yes, like the overarching process, like divinity, yes, is in control of all of that. But because it's a loving divinity, it gives you free will. And the free will, that's you choosing heaven or hell every single day. And I don't mean that as like you're going to burn or you're going to ascend. I mean that like, okay, are you going to get up at like 6 a.m. and work out and do your day? Or are you going to get up, look at your phone, jerk off, smoke weed? You know what I mean? Like it's, you choose either path, and whichever path you choose, the trajectory of your day and your life will follow.
Yeah.
God wants people to take responsibility, I think. Like he wants you to choose the good thing. And sin's like, it's like naughty. Sin is naughty. That's what was taught to us, you know? But to me, sin means like, okay, it's like you fell short that day. I think this comes, I got this from Jordan Peterson, I think. It was a YouTube video he was doing. He was talking about how like in one interpretation, sin just means missing the mark, you know?
That's actually, that's not just one interpretation. That's actually the meaning of the Greek word that gets translated as sin. So it's not even that it's like an alternate translation. It's like, no. Like what we have
not just the Greek word,
has
the Hebrew word.
Go back to how, like what it
is an archery term.
Like all of this is illegitimate. It's not like, oh, they're equally legitimate. It's like, no, this is illegitimate. Garrett, go ahead.
That's wonderful. That's great. Yeah. And so like knowing that, why aren't Christian teachers, pastors, whatever, like communicating this to kids? It's like, no, there's power in your decisions. Like I was always taught, like no one could tell me why premarital sex was bad. All I knew is that like my sex energy was considered naughty. Okay. But if you read books like Think and Grow Rich, there's an entire chapter dedicated to what's called sexual transmutation. And what that means is your testosterone, your sex drive, whatever that energy is, it's friggin' powerful. It gives you energy, it gives you passion. And so the message should be, you don't need to waste it on people you don't care about. You don't need to waste it on porn. You can keep that
very much like
and put it into something productive, put it into art, you know? And so I think the message that people are teaching to Christian kids should be more like, you're fine, but like you can choose these higher things and there's benefits to you in your life, not just you're being naughty, you know?
Yes. Like, oh, yes. And like, this is the thing with Christianity, right? This is the thing with modern Christianity. It's so freaking disconnected. It's like, oh, here's this lofty ideal. But like, okay, what's the bottom line? Do you go to heaven or hell after you die, right? So the horizon of the feedback of whether you're doing it right or wrong is after you die. You can't know. Right. This is why they have these silly debates of like, can you lose your salvation? I mean, that's so downstream of so much nonsense anyway. But like,
I love that. Yeah. I was just thinking about that the other day. Yeah.
But like this thing of where Christianity's become this like moralism of like doing right or wrong. And it's like, no, man, it's like a way of being, and the goal is never to not do the wrong thing. The question is not, are you doing the wrong thing or not? It's like, are you doing the very best possible thing?
Right.
Because everything else, it's like this. It always bothered me. Like one of the ideas of Christianity that bothered me when I was younger was like the for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and like and like all my good works were as filthy rags and all that stuff. And I'm like, how does that make sense? Because you know, supposedly, like if I'm following the 10 Commandments, I'm like in the good here, or at least.
I love this guy. You're absolutely right. It's all bullshit.
The feedback I get from my real life is if I obey the rules, people think I'm doing well.
Right.
And so I'm like, then how does that make sense? But it's like
Ken is like now one of my favorite people in this little corner until he gets tired of me. But like, I am totally gonna stalk him at least for the next week.
Because sin was like this big heavy thing instead of just literally like
instead of doing all my homework that I should be doing right now. This is a just procrastinating stream.
Descriptor. Like, sin is just like a descriptor. It's like, did you do the best thing? No, okay, everything else was sin. It's just like
right.
You can do what is perceived as the most wonderfully moral act in the world and be totally in the wrong. Because you're predicating on some means justifies the end, or end justifies the means, utilitarianism or something. And you just don't know. And so it's like, yes. All that to say, like that notion was one of the huge things that made Christianity so difficult. Was there was never an answer for why something was a certain way. There was just this appeal to just like, oh, God said so, the Bible said so. It's just like this magical thing of like,
right. And like the thing is, if you're someone, if you want to live a very simple life and just like go by what you were taught as a kid because you're comfortable there, like that's fine. And that's a lot of the people at Biola. It's like you will have sex with one person, you will like very rarely swear, you won't take risks, you're gonna just like low key sort of like hobbits, you know. I always thought of like Biola as like the Shire, you know. It's like it is. It's like this quiet little like you know what I mean. For people,
I don't know if it is anymore, but
Yeah, I don't. I was there recently, actually. A little shoot
really?
on top of the parking structure. I saw a few of the faces. They look the same violins, but I don't know. Maybe I
Interesting.
haven't been invited back at any events. So yeah. But no, I agree with that. I was going to say something else too, but I'm sure I'll think of it in a minute.
Well, so here's another thing that I wanted to pick up on from what you had said earlier was like there were these two like versions of Christianity that you saw, right? One where it was like, oh, we are in charge of everything, and so we have to know what's right or wrong. That's like legalism, and this also scales to like broadly, into culture with all the people who like. I think you see this especially kind of in the more progressive like space where it's like if we just got everything right, if we did this, like we could make the world what we it's the utopic thing, right?
Yeah.
And then on the other side you have this like, oh, everything's gonna be fine, right? Like we're not in control at all, like all this is determined, or and that's kind of blends in with those are kind of connected in a way, but I'll leave them alone. I'll tie in as many sides here, but like it's the naivety of that other side, right? And it's like, okay, those are two kind of broad ways of approaching reality, but they're both wrong,
right?
Like they're both deeply wrong in a way,
right? And the thing is, like,
he went to Biola. I didn't even know Biola existed like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and like none of my friends knew it existed, and now I know at least a few people who went to Biola. It's just so funny. It's so funny. So Biola it's actually a pretty large place. And it's like apparently a like pretty big Christian college. And both of them went to Biola. Ken is a well, I don't know how much he basically doxed himself. I mean, that's his real name he uses. So he is a my brain will start working. He is a physician's assistant. Charlie throwing shade at God for Leviticus, I see. Tisk tisk, Charlie. You should not throw shade at God. Dude, how can you fall asleep reading Deuteronomy? Deuteronomy is like the first 10 chapters. Oh my god.
Hey, Jacob. Good evening, or good evening.
It's good evening here. Good morning. How are you?
I am doing well. Came back to the house. I wear a tie most days.
Really?
In 10th grade, I saw my brother coming home with his friends from their yeshiva, and he just looked so much more serious than I did, wearing like a button-down shirt. And I was like, that's it. I'm only wearing a button-down shirt. And then right after high school, I decided that I'm wearing a tie every day. I need to take myself seriously. I need to dress seriously. And then I wore a tie. I mean, basically since then, I've been wearing a tie. Most days I wear a tie.
So you were like a Jordan Peterson fanboy before Jordan Peterson was even famous?
Oh, way before. It's funny. I was aware of Jordan Peterson just because his conversations about Jung were I was reading about Rav Kook at the time, which I'm a fan of, and he discusses Jung. And while I was going that route, my dad's a Freudian, and my dad was like less interested. I mean, he has like he's given me Ion, and he's introduced me to Jung, but that was less his cup of tea. So I was looking elsewhere online, and then I found this strange Canadian professor talking about Jung, which was interesting, but I sort of just saw like a lecture or two of his, and I never then like followed up. It wasn't like this was like, I don't know, 2014, 2015. Wow. And then he became like sort of like a phenomenon again, and I'm like, I think this is the guy. And I went back on. I'm like, oh yeah, but he was already looking thinner. Like the video I saw of him, he had like dark hair. He was like heavier a little. So but yeah, so I was introduced to Jordan a while back. But yeah, so I when he was talking about suit up, that was that was a box that was already checked off. Jacob, did you hear my response to your Mane Chacham?
Yes. Did you see my response on the thing? Look, Chezi, if anybody should understand what it was saying, it would be you. So obviously, you didn't listen to any of the videos.
All right. Well, first of all, they were long videos, and second of all, I listened to I listened a little to the videos, but again, my general point being like, I can't.
And that's Rabbi Khan's whole point is he's actually speaking against what people who take the Satmar Shita too far, and he talks about how no, really, like the Shalosh Shavuot, you can't say that there are these like that even the Satmar Rebbe, when you're medayek in his lashon, he actually says that it's not a halachic, that they're not halachically binding. He actually says that in Vayol Moshe himself, right? But why was he so strongly making these arguments? Because of the heretical nature of Zionism, which gets you to say such horrible things like you do, like chas v'shalom. I am going against the halachas of not teaching Torah to women or to Gentiles or for money, or like chas v'shalom, writing down the oral law. Like, what are you talking about, Chezi? You should know these things better.
But one second, are you telling me, I'm not understanding you right now? You're telling me that people don't write down the oral Torah and don't teach for money?
Of course.
But let's make it more specific.
How do you write down the oral? Okay, so what exactly happened with Rabbi Yehuda and right?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Right, and it was because there was a necessity at the time, and
right.
But the fact is, it is impossible to write down the oral law. That's not something that can be violated. It's not.
How did they do it? How did they do it?
They didn't do it. It's impossible to write down the oral law, Chazi. What the stricture was that even that they wouldn't make Sfarim out of the oral law. But even when you make Sfarim out of the oral law, the fact is, it's still it's something you can't write it down.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. The conception, like yes, and I would argue that even though a tremendous amount of ink was spilled and quills were broken, as they say, on writing down Torah scripture, nevertheless, yes, it is still it's still always in a certain sense oral, and so, but sure. However, teaching Torah for pay, right? That's not like conceptual. Someone got a check in their account.
Excuse me. It's no, and you should know as well as I do that a person cannot be paid for teaching Torah. They can be paid for the time that they would be spending doing other things.
Okay, yeah, and then
no, you see, for you, it's some sort of joke, right?
It's no, one second. It's not a joke. It's, I have to look at these things in retrospect and realize, like, there have been plenty of people that wrote that women can't learn Torah, and now we live in a world where women can learn Torah. So it's just that's
again. See, this is the thing. Like, you don't have this reverence for the eternal
I do.
guidance
That's
of
but I
Torah and how it applies in certain situations in different ways, and the halakhic process. You're just
first of
they got
all,
rid of other things. They can get rid of this too. Pork will be kosher. Why don't we just be mechalal Shabbat and like mixed dancing? Next, you're going to have mixed dancing, Rahman al-Islam.
okay, so first of all, since I try to be careful with my words, many times I've said that I'm not an authority. I'm not the one telling people to make the change. My conversation to rabbis is always being, I want them to be dealing with these sorts of arguments. Now, their response is never, um, uh, you sound heretical. Their response usually is like, yeah, it's a problem. Yes, it's an issue. Yes, we're going to see what we're going to do. I'm not saying, just to explain, I'm not saying that willy nilly everyone could just decide that because they think that to truly embody the spirit of the Torah, one must, deny a certain commandment or forego a certain commandment. Right? You can't decide on that willy nilly. However, seemingly, the status of leadership in general, in religions in general, is just stagnant. They don't know what to do. And I'm not telling them I'm also okay if their decision is to become even more stringent. Do something. Say something. And silence is not an answer. And if when silence is the answer, you just get dragged kicking and screaming. You are an example right now of someone that you're saying like, no, 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 it's not, it's not, it's not. But you have a friend that's a rabbi and she's a woman, right? So like that's just the reality. The reality is she knows what she's talking about. She's a serious person, and you could be like, no, she doesn't exist. She does exist.
I
She's
didn't say she
there.
doesn't exist, but look, when it comes down to it, the fact is that ultimately, yes, history decides who is right and who's wrong as far as Yiddishkeit goes, and that's whereas somebody like you will come along and say Khalila that we can throw off this baggage. I see this as an important growth process that we've climbed this tree to where we are now, and you want to jump off the tree.
No, no. I'm saying, like, first of all, I said I want to throw off this baggage. I want to say that we need to gently put down our duffel bag, okay? Just because, like, we have arrived. And by arrived, that doesn't mean we won or it's over. It just means open up your duffel bag now that you've been carrying for 2,000 years and look through it. Maybe those dirty socks are not relevant anymore, and maybe
And
you need
maybe
to
you
add.
need to throw away all the jewels that are Torah.
No, no, no. I keep on giving the Jenga example. Even if there's something that is specific, it's clear that it's not relevant anymore. I completely understand and respect the delicacy of doing something, how delicate one needs to be dealing with this kind of process, because it's an interwoven theological and cultural web, and in many ways defines us already at this point. So that's not all what I'm saying. I'm just saying that like I mentioned in that midrash with regards to God and Messiah and Elijah signing off on the good deeds people do, because ultimately we don't know now. Now you would need a hope that your actions will be signed off on. But and again, like I said, I am here to manifest the promises made to my forefathers. And when in this shalosh vuot ad shetachvatz, right, until God desires it so. The miracles of the last 60 years, to me, are a clear indication that that's what He desires. Now you could be like, that's not what it looks like. Then, like I said, then you're on the sidelines.
Chezi, this is frankly the exact same thing as Christians telling me, "Oh, Jesus, his first coming, like he did some of the stuff, and the other stuff will come." You know what? Once it comes, we'll talk about what it.
What say are you saying once it comes? God made a promise to Abraham, right? And not all those promises came true, and that was part of Abraham's show of faith in God, recognizing that I'm not going to get to see this all being fulfilled. What the establishment of the state of Israel, and after 2,000 years of Jews, which would be easy to deny, them to think of themselves, are we even the real Israel? It's been 2,000 years of these promises not coming or not being fulfilled.
Chezi, a country which has a debate whether or not to stam do
No, not Stam.
building on the Sabbath is
Yeah.
not Jewish.
So you're looking at it the wrong way, because it's a country that's talking about Sabbath, which no other country in the world is.
Okay, this is the funny thing I always shock Israelis with. Do you know what blue laws are?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Can't have your alcohol. You need to have your alcohol in a little brown bag. Elements of such.
On Sunday, you have to close your store. You can't no public services, and all the Sabbath things that all the Chilonim tell me, like, oh, no other country, how religious oppression in the United States, you don't have such things. The United States, lots of places.
Yeah, but no, yes, but the United States doesn't tell. Yes, but I agree with you that those are.
Tell.
1 second. Those are cultural things that are embedded into society right now. However, in Israel, it's Sabbath because of biblical reasons. Okay, now you could tell me blue laws are.
You think Sunday Sabbath observance in the United States isn't for biblical reasons?
No, I understand that culturally that is still the case.
Culturally, it's religious, Chezi.
What do you mean? But now in America, yes. If a kid is off on Sunday, right? I'm gonna go hang out with my friends on Sunday. That isn't the Sabbath. That's not how it's seen in Israel.
Chezi, if the U.S. Postal Service, well, that's the thing. But
by the way, and yes, I agree with you. What an amazing thing! I mean, they're doing it on the wrong day. But what an amazing thing that America is doing that as well.
First of all, I think it's an absolute ot mina shamayim that they do it on the wrong day, because it says ot hi la'olam beini ubeinechem, right? So, like, the fact that has been kept for the past 2,000 years, even though Christians think they're keeping the Sabbath, the fact that it has been a sign that in fact we are the ones who keep.
So how can you not see? Like, I'm with you that the conversation about Sabbath in Israel, obviously you could be saying, like, the fact that they're even thinking about it shows that we're not there. And my attitude is the fact that the political body in a secular world still has to contend with this concept shows how much we are still desiring this. Are we fumbling? Are we making mistakes? Yes, but it wasn't abandoned, and this is still what the society wants. They're trying to figure out how that looks.
And Chezi, if they make the wrong decision,
yeah,
and the earth vomits them out,
then I guess we would have been wrong. I'm betting that it's not. That's not going to be the result.
I certainly hope so, Chezi. But you know what? If we're still holding out at people debating whether or not the Sabbath should be kept, I at least don't want the state of Israel to be calling itself the Jewish nation and trading on my religion. You don't own my religion when you don't even believe in my religion. And I'm not saying about you. I'm saying about all those Chilonim in Har Zevel, which is what we called Tel Aviv when I was in yeshiva. who are like, we don't
Well,
need this
Tel Aviv
Judaism.
is.
We're Sabra. We're Israeli. No, let
Yeah,
the
you're
Jews
right.
go.
By the way, you're right. Yes, those people exist as well. First of all, also, also Jews also should be loved. Also, hopefully, will also see the light. But yes, that's part of the tapestry that Israel. We also had Yeravam. We also had horrible, horrible leaders. We also had horrible, horrible. We had Datamu Aviram. These are still part of when God says Kulchem Kedoshim. He doesn't say Kulchem Kedoshim aside from these four people. There's a collective. So yes, we obviously have to realize, and again, arguably, I would say that the fact that the Haredim took over right now, and completely, cancel the reform in kashrus and cancel the reform in
What was the
conversion.
reform? What was supposed to happen in kashrus? Rahman al-Islam. And Chezi gets a phone call right at that point.
Is sort of the Rabbanut, the Rabbanut in Israel sort of has a monopoly on that. So
Yeah.
right,
No,
so
not really. The
so
head
as
of
a
Haredi is independent.
yes, the problem is that if someone wants something that, even though religiously speaking and legally speaking, religiously, I mean, like within a Jewish law, they are still considered kosher. They're going to have a hard time finding someone giving them a hechsher, because people are going to say like, no, that your standard is too low, when that's not necessarily the case. And many times they get blackmailed into until they agree to change their restrictions. Sometimes you have, yes, blackmailed.
Like
As
somebody says, I'm gonna beat you up if you.
No,
What?
as in I open up a restaurant and I invested a lot of money in it, and I know that I'm a kosher place, and then I go to someone, I'm like, I need I go to the rabbit and I say, I need my certificate. And they say, yeah, we don't like your standard. And I'm like, but what are you talking about? And they're saying, up your standard, but that costs me a lot more money now. That doesn't matter. And guess what? If you're talking back to us, how about no one's answering the phone now for the next 4 months? But guys, I have people coming to the restaurant. They need to see it's kosher. Can you please give me a temporary certificate? We're going to give you nothing. But guys, my business is going to fail right now. Too bad. You know what? Fine, guys. Yes.
Blackmail.
That's not blackmail?
No, that's not blackmail.
What are you talking about right now?
Blackmail is actual.
Oh, but I'm telling you right now, when they are in their rights to ask for what they're asking for, but the rabbinate doesn't want to give it to them, or the rabbinate comes and says, "Listen, you know what? No problem. I'm going to go the whole 9 yards. Have your representative come and check my kitchen properly, because that's what I'm paying for." Right? Okay, guys, he's not coming to check. He's not coming. Can you guys please answer me? They call back. Don't tell us how to do our job. Our guy will come whenever we want, and you pay us money when we tell you to. Oh, great. So you mean not suggest he's getting money? Now, is that everyone? No. There is corruption over there. There is also the fact that you have people that come and say, okay, I am kosher, and just the rabbinate just doesn't want to see that this way. Just like the rabbinate could come and say that certain things that are according to their interpretation is not kosher, doesn't get a hechsher. So that is a real problem. And the attitude of allowing for an open market with kashrus, to me, specifically considering the fact that Maimonides says it's enough for him to tell you he's kosher. I'm not saying he needs to just tell me he's kosher. I want a certificate of rabbis. But they're saying, for example, you're not enough. Or my mom, retired, decided, you know what? I still have a lot of juice in these bones. I'm going to study now for the next 4 years and become a mashgicha kashrut. So studies and sits down. The flying colors. She passes with flying colors. She does all the tests. And then she goes into the rabbinate in Beit Shemesh, where she was living, to talk to them about getting a position. So the two rabbis, one is on a treadmill and one is sitting down at the desk, don't even look her in the eye, and have a conversation about her while she's there, not talking to her. Maybe we'll have her work in the mikveh, the ritual bath. maybe she could go and she's, what do you, hello guys, I'm right here. I was trained as a mashgichat kashrut. And they just, laughed her off. You know nothing. You can't help us. So super unhealthy um, attitude. And again, that's not all of them, obviously. So these kind of reforms, to me, I think we're taking a step back. Arguably, someone could come and say we're taking a step forward.
Look, I think Usnehat Rabbanut is a mitzvah ta'aseh deoraisa, but that's a little joke. But when it comes down to it, like I'm not gonna defend the Rabbanut because I don't care. I want Israel to stop going around claiming it's a Jewish nation. It's not.
Are you also going to say that when the majority of Jews in the world live there?
That's already happened, Kennedy.
So, but I'm saying, so demographically, that's not what you're talking about. So you're just saying it happens to be a place where most Jews live.
I actually put this in one of
What a funny coincidence. Most Jews living in their ancestral homeland. You gotta love it when those things happen.
Hazy, did I say it was a coincidence?
So we could, by the way, so we could use different terms. You're right. I'm also
live in New York State. That doesn't
you're right.
make New York State a Jewish state.
Correct. It makes the promised land where they were promised to completely transform a wasteland into an oasis. However, I'll agree with you. If it's an issue of terminology, I'm post-Zionist. You know what? I'm against Zionism too. It's garbage.
Okay.
Right. I'm garbage. I'm all for the establishment of the the nation of Israel. And I just believe that these are the this is driver's ed right now. We're in the driver's ed time. 1 second, Jacob. I'll join you back in a moment.
Okay. So should I actually explain to people, like, did anybody understand any of the stuff we were talking about? Jesus did some Messiah stuff. He will do more Messiah stuff winning. The problem is there's not one single messianic prophecy in the entirety of the Hebrew Bible which Jesus which Jesus uniquely fulfilled. Not one.
if you like, whenever you go at an extreme, you're often wrong. You know, like the answer is almost always gray, almost always. And I do believe there is like one pointed truth. I do believe that. I just don't think any of the religions have like gotten there yet. And so why I love having conversations like this is because like you come from all these different viewpoints, and I see this as like a collective experience where we're all on the journey together, like discovering truth, you know? And so when you go at when you hold fast to your extreme point and you don't let loose and just, you know, let other thoughts in, let other viewpoints in, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing everyone else who's listening to you a disservice, because you're not right. The person you're talking to isn't 100% right either. It's we're all trying to figure this out. You weren't there at the beginning.
Jacob.
Mr. Spiro.
I saw someone wrote about someone commented, and you know, henceforth Chazi didn't play any sports or something. I guess I was talking about
That's
me
when
wearing
you
a tie.
started putting on. That's
Right.
He did that when you said you started wearing a button-down shirt.
So it's actually my sporting career ended much earlier than that. I have a vivid memory. At 2 years old, I was playing some game. Not 2 years old. At second grade. Sorry, I was thinking the two. I was playing some game, and a kid came to me. He's like, "Hey, Chazi, do you want to join us for some soccer?" And I was like, "You know what? That sounds like a splendid idea." And I was playing with them, and I guess I don't know. I kicked the ball the wrong direction. I made a mistake, and I don't know. He started like yelling at me, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! I thought this was a game, bro. This is way too intense for me. I think I'm gonna go play Lego." And that's basically when my sports career ended. At second grade. I'm gonna have to go soon, but I did want to leaving this this Zionism conversation for a moment, and just I know we spoke. Maybe we never spoke about this like directly, but do you know that Rabbi Shirky has approached the congregation of rabbis in not the congregation, the Council of Rabbis of European Rabbis in Europe, and he's had like a whole presentation over there bringing up the issues of the Noahide community, lack of leadership, lack of rabbinical responsa to these sort of elements. He ended it last time. He did it with, I think it was like 2 years ago, saying that we definitely, you know, laid the groundwork, and he says it will probably require like another few years for, you know, for some of that to actually start being implemented. However, his decree, his religious decree, or his interpretation of the Noahide commandments and responsibilities one could take on is according to the Chatam Sofer's reading of Maimonides, that they can indeed keep the Sabbath and other things like that. So, which is again, I think just like you know, it's just amazing. Well, I'm not even getting in whether or not, like, you know, it's controversial. I understand that. I just think it's fantastic that someone is still is feeling confident enough to make moves and interpretations and decisions based on what he's reading. He gives a pretty strong argument. There are some commentaries that say that even according to the Chatam Sofer, there's still things like phylacteries, and I think there's like two other things that regardless they can't do. But besides that, everything else is really fair game. And one more thing that I think I have mentioned, but I just want to stress, and I mentioned this to Rabbi Mylod at the time, that Noahites can congregate and can sort of create their own religion. And the reason where you find that is that they can't lahosif, lo yosifu, velo yechadshu meda'atam. And they can't create a renewal of religion sort of at their own whim. However, his commentary to that is they cannot, we, the Jewish people, can for them, right? So and the Noahide community in general is sort of bound to the Jewish state in a certain way, because even all of its rules of dinim are connected to that, which is why, which does relate to the Zionism conversation, the only reason Rabbi Shirky feels confident to make that decree is because he sees the need for like and he doesn't think we're there yet, but he believes in the political body being a manifestation of one of those elements that the Jewish people coming back to their homeland need to do: create courts, create a system to then be able to allow it to engage with other religions, etc. So I would say that's the news for the Noahites.
And as I said to Rabbi Malott, I think that um, hello, Baldwin Orange. You're new here. I think that the fact that the only people who get involved in Noahide issues are either people who are part of some Zionist fringe or some Chabad Meshichist fringe, as opposed to mainstream Chabadniks and mainstream Zionists and mainstream everybody else, is a problem. As far as keeping Shabbat or not, I mean, I am very surprised that somebody would say yes, Shabbat, no tefillin. I don't even understand how that would work. But
I could send you like the explanation for that, but
yeah, but ultimately, like, it's not like I'm a posek, and yeah, we need poskim to be seriously getting involved with this. And Rabbi Shirky is one of the um, few people who's doing it, and I'm happy about that. And you know, but
but I would say that's the most prominent. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would say that's the most prominent figure, probably. Like, I was thinking about it, like, like when I'm trying to talk to different rabbis over here, which I'm going to continue to do. However, I could point very easily, being like, okay, listen, he got to the steps of, like, the European Council, and he gave them their Mishnah, and like, there's not going to be necessarily a better candidate as far as like someone that is like well versed, that knows the material, that has recognized. So like, I look at that as like, it's happening. The question is also now sort of does the Noahide community, like, how do they congregate? Sort of how is that? What's the response there? And yeah, and then like then I don't know yet if he, like, again, I know they have like a group of three, and they sort of have like this whole ceremony for the Noahites. However, I don't know if how that works with, like, I don't think they approved for them like a synagogue, or they approved for them like like some
well,
sort of.
okay. I mean, all of this stuff is up in the air. Rabbi Shirky isn't more prominent simply because he doesn't speak English.
Oh, 1000%. And part of my conversation with him, which I need to follow up on, is also, even though I don't want to be the guy, and maybe even if I wanted to, he doesn't think I'm relevant, but there's just so much Torah that he has, that he doesn't, like, it's all getting out in French and Hebrew. And like, here he actually, like, for Israel, he actually has pretty good presence online with regards to like constantly, he's constantly posting lectures and content and classes. So it really is fantastic. And like, the amount of books he's been publishing is also fantastic. Again, I really recommend his book on nature and holiness, which is really, really amazing, that they do have in English. So he has like this guy that works for the organization that was talking in English. It sounds like I don't know, like a mute man speaking underwater English. It's ridiculous. So I was thinking how I would be a much better candidate, and there's something like, this tie sells. You know what I mean? People want to hear about religion, about someone with a mustache and like a bomber jacket. It's like, it's a little more entertaining.
Okay. First of all, yes, I'm hoping your channel does do very well, but you need smicha. First of all, second, before Baldwin Orange, don't mean to ignore you. Most of the people watching are on YouTube, so when you want to, so if you want to interact with other people, you might want to switch out onto YouTube. But um, sorry, we're having this discussion here. I don't want to go too off stream, but like, yes, anti-Semitism is a rising problem, and it's something that I take very seriously. But I think it's the much deeper problems that are being um, that have the symptom of anti-Semitism. I don't think the problem is that. I think the problem is actually mostly that people, just my name, Federecci, F-A-T-O-R-E.
Federici.
Yeah. Back to you and getting smicha like you should. But beside that, you should talk to Rabbi Breitowitz.
I should talk to Rabbi Breitowitz. I see some of his content online. A, I might be under his radar. B, I was thinking about this actually, and with Rabbi Malot. Not that I was expecting or offended by him. Let's say not necessarily posting or using any of the content of our conversation on his channel. I was just wondering though if for him it's like good that this channel's sort of off on the side, because it could be that our conversation is actually not something he wants like in his community sort of being tossed around, because like I could see how that could be more controversial. And I think it's easier sometimes to talk to, let's say, someone that is secular or non-Jewish, and then talk to someone that, let's say, identifies as I do as, let's say, religious. And then if I'm saying things that they disagree with, it's sort of giving a platform. You hear sort of what I'm saying. Like I could see how that could be a
Yes,
little problematic for him.
I hear what you're saying. Rabbi Breitowitz, I met him for the first time. It was 23 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been following him for a very long time. I have profound amounts of respect for him, and he he does his Q&As live at Or Sameach on a weekly basis. So I mean, if you just, I think if you just drop by Or Sameach, you could talk to him, or I don't know where he gives his shir on Yibane, but it looks like there's a live audience and stuff, and I think it's a public shir. And if you were to go up to him and talk to him, he is he is a, what are you showing us, Kazi?
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I just don't want you to show us something you don't want to show us.
No, you're just seeing like the top of my closet. That's it.
Okay. But yeah, I just didn't want your privacy invaded. Private. But yeah, I think you should. I think it would be very good for you to talk to him, and because he's the only really serious halachic authority, like he hasn't published books. So funny enough, Chacham Hillel actually has a YouTube channel, but it's tiny, and I know he wouldn't talk to you. um, he would be more likely to talk to, frankly, Father Stephen than he would be to talk to you.
I totally understand. I also totally understand why. And like I hold no ill will to anyone because of that. I'm aware of like the politics that's required, and like
that's
yeah.
that's Chacham Hillel, but like Rabbi Breitowitz, he has regular online Q&As, and there are tens of thousands of Gentiles watching his material. And we lost Khadi. Good night, Charlie. Uh, if Fezzy doesn't come back soon, Fezzy, there he is.
Sorry, I guess it switched from Wi-Fi to whatever G they're on right now, 4G, 5G.
Hmm.
So you're saying there's thousands of people, tens of thousands of people that are watching his content.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting. Do you feel, again, I would have to like listen to these conversations, I guess, but do you feel that like what's happening, and I guess obviously in this little corner, it's a lot less Jewish, but do you think that, um, well, do you think that we talk about Judaism too much?
Um. Honestly, like a lot. I mean, the people who are watching my channel are watching for the Judaism content, and that's partially why I am doing the simulcasts and the like having other people on this channel. But like ultimately, in order for my channel to go back to being my channel and people, we need to have those community channels that I'm trying to work on. And I had a couple of conversations today, but like really this foundation idea, this and with those 24/7 channels and stuff, that stuff needs to get done because partially for me to get my channel back and actually have like my channel be my channel again.
Okay, so interesting. Do you feel like since you've launched your just chatting, like, well, A, it's morphed to something else, and you can be like, yeah, I'm happy about that. But you're saying like, I want my channel back. Like, what does that mean? You're saying like, I'm done with having like all these conversations on my channel.
No, no. So I want my channel back, as in I want the load that's so. For example, Mark, when he has his navigating patterns discussion, which was beautiful this past Friday, and it was like 7 hours long, and lots of people
Yeah, yeah,
joined.
yeah.
Right? Like, okay, that's cute and that's cool, but like if people subscribe because of that and then they come back and they see me like having this discussion with you and talking a bunch of Hebrew, or like my content, my manechacham or whatever, right? It's like these are not the same thing. These are not, and so to have it actually be something where people can get what they're expecting, there needs to
Okay.
be a just chatting type channel where we have these conversations, and then anybody who's interested in what I have to say would be able to go come to my channel and listen to me speak, right?
Okay,
About
so
the things that I am interested in.
so I understand. So you're saying for right now, like I'm just allowing, myself to be a platform sort of for people to be having this sort of do this exercise of just chatting, which I don't know her name because I don't know I'm not fully aware of all the politics, but there was this maybe her name is Cassie or Cassidy or this woman.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so she, I don't know, looks like a nice person. I recognized her from like the Thunder Bay videos that Paul was doing, but she was like talking, and now they just had like this. She had this post about all the people and Joey that like sort of the Bridges meeting and did this whole uh, did this whole thing in Germany. They were talking about the drama that happened, but ultimately they're happy. They never get into like any details of what the drama is, which is totally fine. I don't need to share about it. But she sort of doing like a just chatting as well, and she's like, "Okay, I'm going to try this." And as she started talking, Sam jumped on, and they had like this lovely conversation. And like I'm attributing
Okay.
that to you. And
Where was this? Where was this conversation?
um,
On the Discord
like
server or on a channel?
on her channel, I guess.
Oh, when was this?
Recently she's been like posting the last few like weeks. I guess she had like a return. Again, I only saw her as a character
Oh,
that I.
she's been posting the old stuff. Okay, because yeah, okay.
Either way, it was nice for me sort of to see her come up. Again, I don't know what the whole story is, but like it just like her starting talking and Sam sort of jumping on and having the discussion, that flow seemed to be like so natural, and I think that's also due to the space that you're sort of cultivating over here. But I hear what you're saying, which is, yeah, but my channel also is like I'm gonna read Mane Chacham right now. So like if you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
have.
Okay, so that's kind of funny that you mentioned this because I actually one of the people I talked to today was Cassie, and I thought you're bringing her up because I told her she might want to talk to you. Um, so yeah,
Talk to me.
yeah, uh, and I almost ended the broadcast and said, "Hey, Cassie, let's talk about this offline," but because I thought, but whatever. So okay, what you
One
so
second, am I
no,
putting you in an uncomfortable position
no,
right now by
no,
talking
no,
about
no,
this
you're
music?
not. I just didn't know what was going on. Um, so the just chatting streams that I've been having are very similar to the discussions that a lot of us for a very long time would have on the Discord server.
Discord.
Yeah, on Bridges of Meaning, right? And so yeah, a lot of us do have some of that rapport, and so
Yeah, but I remember the Discord conversation, and I remember like I guess I sort of joined on the tail end of that, but I don't know. I remember sort of seeing like in the room, there's like 100 people talking over each other, and then like only like 2 or 3 people could be on. I don't know. To me it didn't feel like as natural as like what this is, but maybe I'm like I'm not aware, and there were like the most fantastical conversations, and everything was amazing.
oh, we had great conversations on there. And yes, by the time, so yeah, this is part of the evolution of stuff. And Cassidy and Ferdy, so they actually met on the Discord in the chats, and I went to their wedding a few months ago.
This this is her husband, right?
Yeah, well,
I know.
what
I'm
do you
saying. I'm
mean?
saying this is like. I'm just saying. I was just connecting the dots. I heard her talking about with Sam about some guy that she married. So I guess this is a guy from the Discord. Okay,
30,
gotcha.
yeah. 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 So like, and this discussion, I mean, I actually haven't watched it. I'm kind of surprised I didn't, it didn't come up on my feed, but, so yeah, the whole Germany thing was a thing. And, oh, were you
I guess
paying
let bygones
attention?
be bygones. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, today was the first time I've seriously spoken to Cassidy. It's so funny you brought this up, but I reached out to speak to her because now she's settled in, and she's back getting involved in things. And I reached out to talk to her, kind of like to try to repair our relationship from the strains and stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And
I didn't know you guys had like issue.
well, the
Whatever it is, you don't have to
it
get into.
was,
Go for it.
yeah, no, and frankly, like, part of the reason I was like, oh, why is he bringing this up? I thought she may have contacted you after our discussion because I was I was singing your praises and telling her she should get to know you, and I actually think you should get to know her. I, but um, because she's a very important person in this corner of the internet, and she's a very capable and knowledgeable and productive and good person, and like yeah, so this is another thing with going back to that foundation and actually making it happen. Like it
Oh
needs
well,
to happen.
shouldn't she? First of all, I'll be glad to talk to anyone. That's number one. Number two, uh, wouldn't she and her husband then be like great candidates for your board of directors?
They would be absolutely marvelous candidates, and I told her that, and like, but she's again, she hasn't been involved with me, and frankly, like if it was my project, like why would she do that? She's like she is the type of person who could run the type of project that I'm hoping gets put together. And so I would love for her and Fairdy to get involved in the project. And that was part of the reason I reached out to her. But yeah, that's so funny that you brought her up just like that. Yeah,
Small world.
it is.
Unfortunately, I need to head into real life. So,
And
sir,
I need to go to sleep. I'll
we'll
talk to you
talk.
later. Good night, people.